I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I made a few people happier than they would have been without me. And as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
Back once again with another episode. This is episode 75 of It's Time to Refresh podcast. We've got podcast royalty on. Diego. No.
That's it, the main man back.
Yeah. Carl's back. Juicy. This one's going to be a little bit different. As you've probably seen the way I've advertised it, it is a bit different. Carl's going to be taking the lead on this one as guest host. And I just to put a little bed out there before we get into it, I was unsure about doing this, just because I don't think anyone's interested in what I've got to say. I'm the host of this, and I question everyone else. But after talking to some of the Patreons, they were like absolutely up for it, and I thought, well, if they wanted that as content, then I'll happily do it. So yeah, you're in for guest host today. How do you feel about that?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for it. Like I say, it's something that I knew I was up here this weekend anyway, and I thought I've done 2 already. And whilst I was catching up, I just thought it is something that's a little bit different because you've got to find out about everybody else, and you've give slight little snippets of your story, and then because there was only snippets, I thought, oh, fucking hell, I wanted to know more about that, and then you sort of stopped because you being the host has then sort of not made it all about you. You've quickly sort of transitioned it back to them, so I wanted to sort of go back into, you know, your story, your musical sort of journey, and just your sort of journey into little things like what made you initially sort of think, oh, I fancy doing a podcast, or what made you sort of do little certain things that sort of got you to where you are now, type of thing. So I know I'm interested in it, which is why I obviously suggested it to you.
Well, the thing that twisted my arm was me and John were doing a track the other day, and I just mentioned your idea of doing it, and he said, do you know something? I think people would want to hear it because he's seen me come up from playing like the competitions and stuff like that, and over time, and he said you need to put out the point that this isn't just an overnight thing.
Yeah, like you've got to work.
Yeah. So I think that's another thing that made me think if I could put it across to somebody who's up and coming, and say, listen, fucking just stick at it, then hopefully they will stick at it and not fuck it off because they're not getting anywhere. So that's one of the main points I want to do it for. Yeah.
Well, there was that thing, wasn't there, last year, where people like R. Jordan, Farrell, Nick, and a few of them, there was all saying about the trenches and stuff about being in, and it's true. You've got to go through. You can't just turn up and be someone.
Yeah.
I sound like Evil B there. Just reminded me of one. He says it on one of his mixes, so I know Ryan's straight away with that. That's Evil B. But you can't just turn up and be someone.
Yeah.
You've got to put in the graft. You've got to prove yourself, and I think that's one of the things that sort of I was talking to Josh Lomax last night about a similar sort of thing on where we see ourselves in the next sort of year, 2 years, 5 years type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to put that graft in. But again, we'll get to sort of your story in terms of when you first started buying tunes and when you bought decks and how you got into it. I know John was a big influence for you, which rightly so.
Come full circle.
Yeah, that's it. And now you're working with him, so it's like it is. It's meant. But from you, how did you first? Can you remember when you first sort of heard? I don't want to say donk, our genre, and thought, oh, it's a bit of me, that, like when it connected with you.
So for me, a lot of people have give this like self-diagnosis thing of like, oh yeah, I'm autistic or whatever. I can confirm that I know I am. I don't need any tests, and I don't need anything to tell me any different, because when maybe if you get to know me a bit more off pod and that, you'll realise that like I'm very fixated in my ways. This is why I do this every week, and I'm definitely somewhat on the spectrum. So when it comes to music, I'm like Rain Man. It's like fucking everything I'm interested in. I like to know every last detail, like of everything. So when I got into music at a really early age, where I was like, it's some of the repetitiveness and the I don't know, the coordination of it all just sort of made sense to me. Like it was like, this is something I know that I can get satisfaction from. So when I was growing up, it was like my mum didn't she like listen to dance music and stuff like that. I primarily lived with my mum when my mum and dad split up. And I'd go to my dad's at weekends. And with my mum, whenever she was like sort of getting ready to go out and stuff like that, I'd always hear the sort of dance music and whatnot, and I was like, right, okay. So I started listening to sort of dance music in about 2000, 2001, and obviously it's a lot later than most people, but I'm only fucking 27, so
yeah. So how old was you then?
I was only about 5, so it's like
I was leaving high school in 2000.
it's
God,
mental,
I'm
isn't it?
part of the
No, it's just next generation, isn't it?
Silver fox me now.
Yeah. Listen, it happens to all of us. I've been talking to a couple of people, and it's horrible to see your heroes get old, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then my mum never really played much of a musical aspect into it. That was the only sort of exposure I had, but it was enough to be like, oh, okay. Then my dad was like music mad, but it was a bit of everything. So it was like, so with him, all I remember back in the day was listening to Italian. It was just Italian all the time. He was involved in a nightclub called The Park in Whitehaven, for those who know what it is. Used to be a fucking bad boy MC, but like it wasn't like that type of MC. It was like
Your dad did?
Yeah, the host. So
What was his MC name?
he used to call himself MCG, but
MCG. Oh, so the original MCG.
But this was mid-90s, I'd say. And then I remember like when I was younger going into the park when I was about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I was just like, wow, this is what like a nightclub is. I was like, wow, this is fucking unreal, because I just remember there was like it was like this all over the walls, like paint all over, like neon paint all over the walls, and it was like, I remember it smelled funny as well, like like obviously that's just something you pick on as a kid. And then from there he showed me like Michael Jackson, Elton John, them sort of names, and then you get to learn like what like a wide thing. Like I remember that the first artist he showed me was Eddie Grant. Remember?
Yeah, Electric Avenue.
Yeah. So I got an Eddie Grant album. I was obsessed with it, and then but it was a deluxe album, and I remember there was Electric Avenue, right? But at the end there was the dance mix of it. And it was just exactly the same, except someone's put this like drum beat in that, and then for me that was like, this is I'm into this. This is like it was like, it was the exact same tune, except literally someone just bootlegged it and put a thing over it, and it got released on the album. And I was like, right, I need more of this. And I remember when I was about 5 years old, this is where it gets a bit complicated for me. When I was about 5, my dad used to pick me up from school on a Wednesday afternoon, and he picked me up. And I remember like coming out into, he had a little like, I think it was like a fucking 1995 Ford Fiesta, and it was like a little like royal blue one. Yeah. And getting into it, like it's good looking back. I've never actually thought about all this now until I'm talking about it, but like I just little flashes here and there. And then we get in, and I always I had a tape recording of like dance music and stuff like that. But the one that sticks out to me was driving, and it was like a red hot sunny day. We had all the windows down, and we had that Electric Avenue fucking dance mix playing, and it was just a very, very fond memory. Yeah, man. And then I don't know if I should go into this. My mum doesn't watch it anyways, because I know she didn't mean anything by it or out like that. But when I was 6, I was spending the weekend at my dad's, and then I came home, and I remember going into the house, and my mum had packed everything up and whatnot, and my stepdad, and we moved up to Hamilton near Glasgow. Yeah. Moved there, and my dad didn't know about it. I'm like, well, I don't know what the situation was. I genuinely don't know. I think my mum just wanted like a fresh start. Yeah. Away from the area. So fair play to whatever. We went up there, and I was then exposed to like the Scottish sort of like. I remember they were all madheads. Like where I lived in Hamilton, it was rough. Like I remember like. There's so many different stories. And I'm not sure what I can go into actually, without like.
I know what you mean about it being mad. I went on a night out in Glasgow with Jordan, two lads, Nick and Brewmed, and
Brewmed, wasn't him?
it's his surname. He's called Liam Brewmed. So like we went for a night. Jordan had a gig in Glasgow, and we went, and I just remember being stood on the dance floor, thinking, "Fucking hell, these lot are mad!" Like
a different breed.
They just loved the night out. Like they were just wild, and I was like, I thought I was a bit of an Ed the ball when I was on a night out, but I was like just looking around thinking, Jesus Christ, this is like. But in a weird way, I was like, this is a bit of me as well. Like I don't think I could ever reach that level.
Good. Yeah.
I don't think I could reach that level of being that mental, but at the same time, I just thought, like, I was shocked by it because obviously, you go to sort of like Sanctuary or Pier or whatever it was back in the day and stuff, and it was just everyone just having a dance, and you know, you get the odd lunatic here now and again that's rolling across the floor, but everyone was doing it was like, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is the best.
I bet you and Jordan were in your element though. Like,
yeah, because obviously Jordan's, when you've seen what he's like when he gets giddy and that, and this was back in the day before he'd had the guidance off Farrell and all that to sort of like coach him on how to behave and everything. Like he's a lot more mature now. Back then, I'm going back now. This is 2000, maybe 2005, 2006. So Jordan was still fresh on the scene. It might be a little bit later than that, but he had this game. Yeah, it was just. I just remember thinking, Glaswegians are mad. Like they're just, but in the best way. I was just looking around thinking, literally just thinking, fuck me, like what's going on? But it was brilliant. It was one of the best nights out I've ever had. I was gutted when Jordan's set finished because obviously it's a long drive, but we ended up getting a hotel, so even that was a long drive back. But yeah, it was just such a good do. But yeah, I know what
they're all madheads, man. Like I remember, I didn't deal with getting up there at first pretty well. I was singled out, right. I could have been another ethnicity and like I'd have been treated better. I got up there and I remember I went in first day of school, and as soon as I heard my accent, I got targeted, mate.
Yeah.
Like, the thing was, I went to a school which I was deeply involved in it's the Catholic and Protestant thing. So I went to a Catholic school. All my stepdad's family, they're all support Celtic and they're all big Catholics. Yeah. And then, so our school's sort of here, and about 50 yards up the road was a school called Neilsland.
So is that why you went to Hamilton, because your stepdad?
Yeah, he's from there. Yeah. And they just thought they'll give it a go up there and see what it's like. Yeah. Give it maybe a year or two and see what happens. And then, it was like these are kids. Bear in mind, there's no older than 11, right? And they had to let them go half an hour apart, the schools, because when they got out it was just fighting constantly with like, and it was all like really like racial stuff, like with
it's bad, isn't it,
between them. But these are just going off what their parents are seeing. So I remember, I'm not going to name names because obviously I'm not that type of person, but I was in school and I remember I always tell the story to my missus. It's mad. But the Jack and the Beanstalk story, where I went in and drew a 3-5-4 film, and everyone used to stare at me because I'm the Englishman, right? And it was like, and then there was these two rough fucking brothers who used to bully me all the time. And there's another side story to that, but like I remember coming out of school one day and it was the days of Pokemon cards. I had the Pokemon cards and that. So me and my mates were all sort of like fucking trading cards and whatnot, and he come from like his mum and dad were fucking bagheads. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they never had anything. But I remember coming out of school and we used to go between a gap in the. The only reason I'm telling the story is I'm trying to portray how rough this place was. So and anyways, I remember that I went through this gap in the fence, and as I came out, he's standing there waiting. and he's got a knife on him. And bear in mind, I'm only about 7 years old at this point.
Yeah.
He's about he was also 7, but his brother was about 10 or 11, and they were like empty bag, like fucking I don't know what it is. Fucking,
Yeah.
And the Yu-Gi-Oh and fucking Pokemon cards just went everywhere. They picked them up and took off with them, and I just thought, wow, where am I at? Like this is fucking rough. This, and then the only reason I'm telling this is because I got a bit of karma as well. My karma was I went up there I only go up there now for real, like funerals and weddings and stuff, just for like family and stuff. And my stepdad's mum had passed away, and I went up to the funeral and I seen this older lad's brother, and I was like, oh, like to my auntie, I says, oh, there's thing, and everyone knows each other around there. It's all like that. And he said, I says, oh, I went to school with him and his brother, Andrew. And she goes, yeah, Andrew's dead. He fucking smack overdose. And I was like, fuck you. There you go. Have a bit of that. I lasted longer than you did.
Such a similar story what I've got. A very similar one where...
it's the one you told on your podcast, isn't it? Yeah.
It's exactly the same, where I was like, fucking good.
Yeah, no, but I'm at this point, I was about 18, 19 years old. I remember driving up in my car, and so it was definitely of that age. And I remember just telling my missus the crack about it, and I felt happiness just because knowing how much he fucking tortured my life was horrible. So, anyways,
so during all that, then to sort of segue back into the musical side of things, do you feel, because I know it was a big thing for me and Jordan because we had similar surroundings and upbringing and stuff like that, but do you feel your connection with music being so strong was an escape from
what I was going to say was when after that, like I was just trying to portray how rough it was because we couldn't go out and play at night. So in the evening, in the afternoon, you couldn't go onto the park and play because it was just full of ruffians, ruffians. So what I used to do is just play in the house with my younger brother, and I remember my dad used to make me mixtapes. And it was the days where the CD first came in. But there was still a tape thing, so he was like, right, well, I'll put. He used to spend a lot of time investing things for me. Do you know what I mean? So he'd spend an hour recording and taking a CD out and putting a new CD in and recording the next tune, and he'd say these are 10 fucking brilliant songs. Listen to these. I remember taking the tapes and having them in my house, and after school it'd be just rinse the tape, and I know every second weekend I'd come back down to Whitehaven where he lived, and he'd drive up and pick me up, and then he'd educate me on the way down of like this is what's new this week and stuff like that. And because he knew I was genuinely interested in it, it was like I'd get in the car, and I remember I never used to sit in the passenger seat. I used to sit in the back, and he'd have a stack of CDs there, and he'd be like, right, you need to listen to this, it's really good. And he's like quite pushy on me of it, but it was only because I was interested. So he knew that was your thing, and because he'd had sort of involvement in music as well, it was kind of, I used to say, music to his ears, wasn't it? Really? So well, at this point in his life, I don't mind telling this story either. At this point in his life, he'd stopped going out completely, like nights out and stuff like that. He didn't do it anymore. He had suffered with depression and stuff like that. Tried to kill himself, and then from there, he just sort of everything was always about me. Like I'm his only kid. Obviously, I've got brothers and sisters, but that's on my mum's side. And what had happened was he sort of started devoting all his time to me. So he used to like make notes and everything of what like we could go and do together. Do you know what I mean? But he had me bang into football. Obviously, that sort of fell off a bit now. I don't have the energy to sit there and watch football. But with music, it was like I remember getting in the car and there'd be like a pile of CDs. We'd listen to them, right? And if the track numbers and stuff. I'd remember the track numbers, and then what he'd do over the weekend when I'd go to bed at night. So you've got to remember, I'm only like 7 or 8 years old at this point. He'd record the tape for me to take with me. So my 10 favourites or 20 favourites, I get to take them back with me when I went home and listen to them again. And then it was just a cycle like that for a long time. And then stuff happens while I was up there. There was involvement in all sorts of things with my family and stuff like that. And I think my mum at that point just like, listen, this is whatever, we're going to move back down, this was a bit much. I just remember like the estate we lived on was really rough, like and It didn't seem rough at the time. Like, do you know when
You're
you
in
live
there,
in it,
you
you
don't
live it,
realise, do you? Yeah.
You become. But when I look back on it now, I can remember like how rough it was, and like there was fucking bagheads everywhere. There was, and where I grew up, it wasn't. I don't want to make it sound like it was a shithole because it certainly absolutely wasn't. It was just. Looking back on it now,
Yeah,
with
I
their
know
eyes,
exactly
I would
what you mean.
my little lad I wouldn't put it through, and that, I think that's why I came back. Do you know? What
Yeah, I never realised how bad mine and Jordan's childhood was until I had kids,
I mean? Yeah,
and I was like, no, what? Like, I couldn't imagine
yeah,
putting Callum or any of them through them. Like, and it's only afterwards. Like, I knew it was crap because of all the stuff that sort of the social services and for my dad to get custody of us and us move from Hull to Bolton, which is a distance away. I knew it was bad, but it was only really when you get responsibilities of your own where you're like, could I ever put mine in that situation? You're like, no, and that's when I really realised. I always knew it was bad. I knew it was a bit like traumatic. I knew it had lasting effects on me, but I didn't realise how much until I'd had my own kids, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, now you actually see it from a parent's point of view.
yeah,
Like, wow. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean by that, because when you're a kid, you just sort of morph into the environment. You're just a product of it. You don't know. Like, obviously you'll know that when you come back down to see dad and that, and you know it's nicer and the people are nicer and you know they've all got teeth and stuff like that. But then when you go back and you're like, okay, you know it's a little bit different, but you don't realise exactly how bad it is. Do you? So I know exactly what you mean by that. Yeah.
yeah. But like I just want to make a point forward as well. Like, my mum was always sort of she was there for me all the time. She was young and and she was, I think, I don't know, she had me really young, but the thing was my mum and stepdad were involved in this world, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
But she still went out to work. She still went out, like she had two. I remember she had two jobs, and she was worked as a barwoman in the Well, which was, this is now, I think it's closed now, but it's a rough as fuck pub. Like
In Hamilton.
and in Hamilton, and you have to have a proper backbone if you're a barwoman there. So if you met her, the total polar opposite to me. She wouldn't mind shooting you down and stuff like that. Whereas I'm quite reserved. And she was like a manageress in the spa, which was next door. So she used to go from shift to shift and just walk. So yeah, she was always there and trying for me and my brother and stuff like that. But it's the environment around you as well. You've got to grow up in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when I was 8, the only reason I'm telling this story as well, because I'm only ever going to tell it once. I don't need to go over all this again in other podcasts. You know what I mean? When I was 8, I moved back to England because there was goings-on and stuff like that, and it was just a better life for me down here. My mum and my stepdad moved back down here, and we lived with my nana while we were trying to get housing sorted and stuff. And that's when, like, I discovered that all my sort of English friends and all that, they were all like banging into football and whatnot. None of them was interested in music.
How long was you in Scotland for altogether?
3.5 years, I think.
Did you have the accent?
I don't think so, but my dad was dead. Like, used to take the piss out of me a little bit. Like he'd just start doing a Scottish accent.
Really easy as kids. I remember.
You're influenced, aren't you?
Yeah. So I moved to Hull from London, and I had the London accent. So, all right, mate, and all that. And then when I moved from Hull to Bolton, everyone was taking the piss out of me because I sounded like a farmer. I was saying like the Yorkshire accent. Yeah. You do pick it up. So
you haven't got the typical Bolton accent, though. That's the thing. It's
mine's
like a merger
mongrel of accents. Yeah. It's,
and then the music thing was always still prominent, but like, do you know when you're trying to talk to people and you're like, for me, this is why I do a podcast. I remember talking to a mate Oliver, like, so do you like music and stuff, like, and then I remember that I brought in a tape that I made for him, and it was Elvis, because it was what he liked, and we were like, we used to fucking sing. And mate Macaulay was into Eminem, so like I liked Eminem and stuff, so we used to just recite all the rhymes and that to each other and everything like that. So that's what it was. The dance music thing was like, it was there, but no one was interested in it. And then skip forward sort of few years. When I was about 11, we used to go down to the youth club, and all my mates were just football, and that was it. And just having the crack, being fucking just bad lads, really. Just you know it is, typical sort of council estate lads. And then when I got to 11, there was the older session that started. So like you if you were like 12 and under, you were in the younger session.
Yeah.
The thing started like 7:30 for the older session, and I remember just the blaring like donk music, and it was like, what's this? Because I knew what Italian was and whatnot, and I was like, wow, what is this? And I went in, and my mate was like, this stuff's class, and it was Sanctuary Volume 2 Part 2. It was,
is that your first introduction to it?
That was the sort
what
of
an
thing.
introduction.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish that was my introduction. That fucking hell.
But I just remember going in, and there was all these like 15, 16-year-olds who were a bit older than me, and they were just playing it, and they were all banging to it, and I was like, do you know something? This is a bit like Italian, except it's a bit more tougher. And I remember we were all playing pool around the table, and I was awful at it, but partly because I was always tuned out. I was always listening to the music of and what's this? And I always remember there was like one or two lads who had the CD packs, and it was like, right, put these in here.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are you getting these CD packs from? And I can't remember where they were saying, like the record shops and stuff like that. Bear in mind, like, my dad never bought any CD packs or anything for me. He had the old Zone tapes and stuff like that, and that was where I was hearing the Italian and stuff. But this Sanctuary thing was like, what is this? This is a whole new sound.
Yeah.
I'd never heard donk, so it was like, and then obviously I'm listening to them, and it's like John G, Desire. You're hearing these names, and I'm thinking,
with 2 Part 2, do you not think as well? And it's only recently I really picked up on it. You think of Jay and Desire. People forget how strong the beginning of 2 Part 2 was with John, and like how like it just set the tone, didn't it? And then obviously Desire comes in and everyone, like Farrell and everyone. But yeah, you forget sometimes that Guesty was on. Because obviously it's mainly
it wasn't just that. It was because on the CD collections it was Volume 2, but it was all of the. It was everything in it, and so there wasn't just 2 Part 2. Part 2 was the first one I heard, and then obviously there was, as you get to listen to them more, you get to know all the DJs and the MCs and everything. And I was there, and I was like, wow, this is unreal. And then I remember hearing the Sound of Now.
Yeah.
Do you know,
Sound of Now. Yeah, it's a tune.
And I remember
I was thinking Layback when I every
it's
time
such
it
a
comes
good tune.
on, I always think of Layback with that tune, because I think it's on 11 Part 3. Is it 11/3? I think it is, with Layback in it. Yeah, it's just a tune and a half in it.
Well, I heard it and I was just like, this isn't bounce, it isn't Italian, but I don't know what it is. And it was like, obviously it's like hard house, and I was just like, this is to me, Sanctuary is an education. And I'm not just saying it now because I'm resident. I'm gonna get touching on that as well. But I grew up and all it was Sanctuary.
Yeah,
I remember there was 2 sides to it. There was Sanctuary, and then there was the New Monkey, because there was the Makina thing was really big around here.
Yeah.
And to me, there was too much MCing on that side, so that's what I got focused on with that. So I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, this is a bit of me, this. And then I heard obviously like things like On Your Side, like the Edge Express, and I was like, I knew that from the Zone CDs.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I can relate to this, and that's
because you'd heard it through your dad's tapes and that as well, and they're obviously, because that was when there was not phasing Italian out, because it's never been phased out, but there was mixing it in together, weren't they? So a lot of it you sort of listen to and you're like, oh, I know this one, and I'm hearing this new stuff. So it's the sort of nostalgia, but also learning the new stuff as well. So yeah.
Well, and then the part that made me like totally just fall in love, I remember hearing is it Rob Zizzy it's called, and I remember standing by the pool table. I turned around, the sofas were over there, and I think some of the lads were like getting sweets or whatever from the tuck shop, and the Rob Zizzy tune came in. And I just remember them all jumping around. Like I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Tune, yeah.
It's amazing. And then I was just like, right, this is it. I need to get some of these. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'll buy these CDs off you. And he was like, no, do you know how hard these are to get hold of? And I was like, no, I'll buy them. How much do you want for them? And I just remember, like, I couldn't get hold of any of these ones anyway. And I was telling my dad about them, and he was like, I know what it is, but I wouldn't know where to get them or all like that. So anyways, next minute, my mates were getting hold of these recordings on the CDs and stuff like that, and we're playing them on the speakers on the park, and then you get into drinking and all this. But at this point, I was thinking about getting decks, because I wanted, when I seen them dancing to and I thought, do you know, I think I could, if I played that tune,
Get everyone dancing.
get everyone dancing. Yeah. So I was like, I need some of this. So I remember when I was 12, I started selling chocolate in school, because like fair play to my mum and that, like she was there for me and that, but like we never had any money at all. We never anything sort of spare, and if I wouldn't dare go and ask for a set of decks, because it's like, are you joking?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So I thought, if I'm going to start getting into this properly, and I need to get a set of decks. I don't even need any music yet. As long as I've got the decks, I can start collecting music after that. And then sadly my dad died. And then it didn't knock on the head or anything like that, but it sort of pushed me along to get deeper into music. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I remember clearly my mum was like, "You're not having time off school." I was like, "Yeah, Dad's just died. Like, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "No, well, if you're not going to be one of these people who are layabouts, just get, like, you can't blame stuff that's happened on that. Do you know what I mean? So it's just get on with it." I remember I had 2 days off school. It was a Monday and the Tuesday, and then my dad's funeral was like on the Friday, and then that was back in school. That was it constantly. And then I just thought, right, just going to start selling at school, and I was making sort of 50 quid a week or whatever it was, and I was buying stock and all that. Anyways, I soon built it up, and I remember it was I was in year 8, so what's that, 12, 13, 12. And it was the summer, and I was asking people, like, I remember going over to like the local pub, like, do you know anyone who's got decks? I want decks. Like, where can I buy them from? And there was this guy from Clayton, obviously where we are now. He was selling these Newmark turntables, and I was like, I'm going to get these. How much does he want for them? And when he said to me, he says, I want 80 quid. I was like, fucking right. I'd saved up like 300 quid, 400 quid, thinking that's how much, like, I didn't know how much it cost, didn't know where to find them. And I got them, and he gave me a whole lot of trance vinyl as well. And I was like, get in there.
Yeah. Is that where your love for trance comes then?
Oh, no, my dad would show me the trance stuff. The trance thing, he was like, listen, you don't need to get hyper about this music, just listen to it and feel it. Yeah. And then when he played it, I was like, I see what you mean. He could sort of like, and that's how I was like,
you don't sort of
it doesn't need to be banging in your face.
You can just listen to it, and it's the perfect thing. You do feel it.
So with my education in music, like I knew so much music, and I knew like titles of tracks and song titles and what label it was on and stuff like that from the age of about 10. And like I was getting Mixmag at 7 years old. My dad used to buy me Mixmag every week, and it was just like, and to me, I've said this on a previous podcast. To me, it was like Mixmag, like that's what all the clubs were. That's why I didn't know what Sanctuary was or anything like that. Because it only showed you what Carl Cox was up to, or what was going on in Ibiza, or like London. It was always the London sound. So to me, I was like, right, I know what I can get into the trance bits, because I remember like Armin van Buuren and like Paul van Dyk, Ferry Corsten, they were all always in the books and with the free CDs and stuff like that. But there was never any bounce, or there was never any Italian either. So that was another thing. So I sort of knew it was a bit more underground, and I didn't realise that it was a Northwest thing. Like I didn't realise where it all came from. So then I got this first set of decks, and I thought, that's it, DJ now, aren't I? And I remember I played my first record that I ever got was I got it just before I got the decks, was Darude, Sandstorm and Clubhead's Here We Go. Put your hands up. And I was like, I've got a donk tune, so I can play a donk tune and all that or whatever. And then I remember putting it on and then trying to like, I just didn't know what to do. No one could show me, because no one else was a DJ around me, so I didn't know what I was doing. And then I was like, right, I was listening to DJs, how do they mix that tune into that tune? And I couldn't get it. I was getting the because obviously, like I said, I was definitely on the spectrum. I was getting the beats and bars count in, but the beats wouldn't line up, and I was like, why is this coming in earlier than this, and why is that going, like, why does that feel like it's lasting longer? And anyways, that went on for a few months, and then when I was about 13, and it was like going into year 9 into school, I was like, right, this is it. Like, fucking, I know I'm going to teach myself. I'm going to buy the same record twice. So I got another copy of Darude Sandstorm, put it on the deck at the same speed, let it off at the same time. It was in beat, and I was like, right. So if I set it off this time and I'll change the pitch on that one, all I need to do is make this one the same pitch as this, and I know it can sort of work.
Yeah.
So then I was doing it, and then when it clicked for me with the 2 same records, I was like, right, now I just need to work out the speeds, the tracks. And I remember like putting a little tiny, I've still got the records in there, like putting little tiny numbers on that I know that this one's like this speed, but I didn't know what BPM there were or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I've put, this is at a 3 speed, where a 3 speed to me would be like 140, and then a 4 speed would be like 145, a 5 speed would be 150. But obviously I didn't know what these were.
Own way of figuring it out.
So if I knew I've got a 3 speed, it'd be there or thereabouts, or another 3 speed tune. That's how I worked it out. A bit sad, I know, but it is what it is. And I couldn't find records anywhere like this, and I was just mixing the same tunes over and over and over again. Mum was telling me off because playing loud music and shit like that. And that's how it ended up for a while. And then when I was 13, my stepdad's cousin is a mobile DJ, and he was like, "Oh, you're into the DJing and that." Shout Chris as well, by the way. Used to do, I think it was like CB discos. Used to go and do 18th, 40th, weddings, that sort of thing. And he said, "Do you fancy coming along?" I was like, "Yeah, go on then." Went along to this, and it was someone's 18th, and he was playing all these party tunes. And obviously round here, you can go and you can play Italian and bounce, and everyone, all the kids love it. Do you know what I mean? It's always been like that. And so there was the odd bit. I remember like, obviously George Lewis Hit the Floor and stuff like that. Them tunes sort of went off. And a few like tunes that he had, but it was just called Wig and Pier, like Wig and Pier track so and so. And it was like, for instance, it was like Tutti Frutti and stuff like that. But obviously, he knew it worked. And anyways, he was like, right, I'm going to go for a piss and have a crack with some people. He says, you just take over here and play tunes. And I was like, well, what do I play next? And he was like, just play something that goes off the vibe of this, and if they don't like it, then quickly play something else. And then, so anyways, I was going through a few tunes and playing this. I knew what people were sort of wanting and stuff like that. And then this old woman come up to me and she was like, play something for the oldies. But I was like, and my sort of ass fell out, like, play some. And I was like, oh, if I play this, these people are going to go off the dance line. And I was getting all flustered and stuff, and that was my first experience into DJing. And then,
so even as your first ever experience, you get people coming to the DJ box asking for tunes.
Yeah, it's like, she was like, play something that the oldies are like, and I was like, oh, for God's sake. And then from there, I was like, I really like this. I like people dancing to what I like. Like, it wasn't like I'm letting them dance. It was like, I'm playing music I like playing. Let's do this. And then I started recording my mixes. And I was just giving them to mates, and my mates were coming around mine, they were like, oh, so you're like a DJ or whatever. I was like, yeah, but I've only got fucking 40 tunes, so it's like, you're going to hear the same shit over and over again. And I recorded like 2 mixes, and the 2 mixes were like 20 tunes on one and 20 tunes on the other, so it was like 2 completely different mixes, but that's all I could do at that point. So I was giving them out, and I was like, I remember sitting up all night one night, and thinking about it now, I feel like what a fucking tool I was. I was burning CDs, and I think I only burnt about 12, but it took me all night to do. Because like when you're there, you've got the record, you go drag and drop it, and like obviously it's old technology and that as well in it. But and then I was giving them out to people and stuff like that. And I remember that my uncle was knew somebody from town, and I went and played when I was 14 in a nightclub, and I remember like you like. They just blagged it. It was just like, oh, he's a DJ and he wants a thing. And they were like, well, actually, you can come and do warm up and then whatever. So I remember I got a lift down, and I'd never been on CDJS or anything at this point, but I had burnt loads of CDs off, knowing I was going to be playing CDs. And I turned up, and I remember there was 3 lads on the door. And this was in, I don't know if you heard of GL3 or Gallagher's. Sanctuary's been in there a few times. We've had frequency and all that. I will get into that in a bit, but I turned up there and lad was there. I was holding my CDs and my headphones, like I'm a DJ, and he just laughed at me. I'm like 14 years old, but like I got laughed at. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not coming in here. He says we'll get sacked. We'll lose our job. We'll get a fine.
Yeah.
It's like no, I am. So then I went to get somebody, and I remember going in, and it was completely dead. There was about 3 people in there. And I remember dead clearly there was a bucket in the middle of the dance floor where the drip was coming through the ceiling. And there was one bouncer stood by the DJ box, and he says, "You're playing your thing and then you're gone." Like there was one other DJ there, and I can't remember who it was. And he was like, "Right, you just go and do an hour or whatever, and I'll be back in a bit." So I started playing. That was my first. And I got these 3 people dancing, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, I could mix A to B, but I was thinking I was playing like 150 or something like that, just as you do. And I done that, and then I was like, right, I like this. Even though there was only 3 people dancing, I think there was like 5 by the end. I was done, and I remember I thought I'll stand at this side of the DJ box away from the bouncer when I'm finished, and I'll just watch the next DJ. And he'd done like 2 mixes, and straight away the bouncer come put his hand on my shoulder and like, right. You're not in there, gone. That was my first experience. So I remember I got I think it was the 20 past 10 bus home, because obviously what can I do in town at that time? I can't get out or anything like that. So I was like, right, I need to get into this, So I was trying everything I could and whatnot, and I couldn't get gigs or anything for anyone. And I thought, well, if no one's going to book me, I'll just organise my own party.
Yeah.
And then I went to see this guy who at the Griffin in Frizzington. A lot of the people who will be watching this for this story they'll be buzzing off this. So all my mates, right, they were into the dance music, but they were like, oh, this is good party music, but they weren't into like, they didn't know what everything was or all like that. Yeah. And there was one mouse, he was called Callum. Shout out to Callum. He was always the one. He was getting the CDs, and I think he was ordering them offline or whatnot. And he was like, oh, I've just got this new CD. But it's not a new CD. It was recorded in 2003. It was like a cricketer CD.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But to us, it was brand new, and it was like, it's not the same lyrics you heard over the same tunes on the last one. Do you know what I mean? It was still Farrell, and it was still, like, do you know what I mean? Avi and that. And then I remember that I said, I'm going to go and see this Tim, who's going to organise a thing. I said, all right, I'm a DJ. I want to come and play a night here. And we'll do
at the
it.
Griffin.
Yeah, the Griffin. And he said, he says, oh, I don't know about this. Like, I'm not sure about this. I was like, no, like, we'll do it under 18s and you can kick us out at like 8 o'clock, whatever. We'll just do it for the day if we have to. And he was like, oh, right, go on then, just because I know your stepdad. Yeah, right, no worries. I went away, and then I was like, right, I'm going to get something sorted for this thing. I'm going to make a real big deal out of it. Made a little flyer up and everything like that, and put all my mates talking about it. All my mates from school were talking about it, and in the meantime I went down to the youth club, and there was a set of CDJs in the youth club. I thought, what the fuck's this like? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And there was a lad who was a little bit older than me. He'd got decks, and my mates were going, go on, you jump on, you're a DJ, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, alright then. And there were these like decks I've never used before. I think they were like Citronic decks. Like I remember like playing a tune, and I went to touch the jog wheel, and it just started spinning, and I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't beat match or anything like that. And I remember like trying to bring a mix in, and it was clanging like fuck, and they were all like laughing at me, and I was like, what the fuck? I said, I've never been on this, and they're like, I didn't remember he was slightly older than me. He goes, you're not a DJ. I was like, oh, nice one. Cheers. So then I went away, and I was like, proper thing. I was like, a bit thing with myself.
Proper disheartened and that.
Yeah. And then, as luck would have it, right, he said, I think he sold them to another guy for some reason. I don't know what the reason was. And this guy, Matthew, lives just up the road. He's from Birmingham, so he had like loads like hard house vinyl and stuff like that. He goes, mate, I'm trying to get back into vinyl. I can't get used to these CDJs. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you my decks, right? They were only new marked. I think they were TT 150 belt drives, and you have them, and I'll have them off you, and I'll give you £100 as well. And I was like, he was like, go on then. So for this party, I had all this new music to play because I could burn it off CD. So I was like, this is gonna be one fucking hell of a party. This. And I remember coming in and thinking, no one's gonna turn up. So it was like my core group of like 6 mates. It's like, now we've told everyone about it, fucking and whatnot. It's gonna happen. And then I came and it was rammed like this spare room of a function room. They were all my mates from school, and that feeling of like I remember playing tunes and there was
reactions
to them, but like there were people who would never necessarily. I was always an in-betweener in school. I was never popular, but I was never like the weird kid either. But I was just known as the guy who sold chocolate. Yeah, just chocolate. I was the guy who sold chocolate, and I was a bit cheeky. And it was at that moment where I got that justification of like some people who'd never acknowledged me before when I was bringing tunes in and it was going off. These lot were all like underage wrecked as well because like they were just bringing their own drinking and just putting it underneath the seats and whatnot. And they're all like, fucking amazing, this fucking amazing. I was like, right, I'm into this.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you get the reactions, it's highly addictive. Yeah,
it was really, really good. And then I thought to myself, how am I going to do this now? Like, I want to do this. In my head, I was like, I want to do this full time. I'd love to be able to, like, if I can get paid for doing this. So then I remember seeing on, like, Facebook or something like that, there was, like, a residency come up in town. And I thought, if I just pretend I'm older. Because at this point as well, I was being able to get out.
So like, I was, 14, 15.
I remember me and my missus used to go out when we were really young. With our mates who were a little bit older, and looking back at it, like I don't know how I got out, but I was always the one who had like sort of like facial hair or I was a bit bigger than everybody else. Like I remember when I was about 16, 17, I was like as tall as I am now, 6'2", whatever, and everyone else dead short. And I remember like seeing everyone like a year later, like I hadn't seen from school. I seen them and they're all my height, and I was like, oh, these are all had a growth spurt then. Do you know what I mean? And then what had happened was I messaged on Facebook and just said, listen, I'm interested. And she says, come down, we'll have a chat. And I was like, right, I need to fucking... So basically, I think they were desperate. And I said, and then I basically got this residency playing. And my mum was
Where was this at?
It was in John Paul Jones in Whitehaven. It was just playing dance music / pop music. No donk, no Italian or all like that. It was just playing music to keep people in their pub. That was what it was. So I was like, right, fucking 60 quid a week, or 60 quid on a Saturday night, fucking class, I'll do that. Wasn't old enough to be there, but I remember getting the bus down every week, like me CDs and that, and turn up and play away. And this is where I got my biggest education as a DJ, reading the dance floor. The amount of times I cleared a dance floor. And then I was like, right, well, this works at this time, this works at this time. And this is where it all started, like, all right, if I start off slower, and then people are just foot tapping at the bar, and then I can get... And then this is my experience of, like, sort of being a DJ, and I was like, right, this works with this. And then this went on for months and whatever. And then I was like, I was getting bored of it. I was like, I'm enjoying doing this, but I want to play dance proper.
It's not the genre that you wanted to do.
Yeah, it's not what I want to do. So I was like, right, I met a few friends on Facebook of like, was it Facebook, I think? It might have been pre-Facebook, it might have been
MySpace or something like that, yeah.
No, it must have been early days of Facebook. Anyways, I messaged these few people who I knew was DJs in the local area. Some people's older brothers and some people I knew. And then I booked a night out when I was 16. I said, right, I'm putting this night on. He's available for to do this. This is a wake up call. A lot of people need to realise that it doesn't happen overnight. And this is what I wanted to put across as well. To me, I just wanted to go and play at this night where it's going to be all the music I love, and I'm going to be with like-minded people. So for the first night I booked, the lineup went like Andy Kelly, who he's been on my lineup since. So he was on my last It's Time to Refresh. He's been on the podcast before. And Mark Cockburn, DJ Cocky, he watches the podcast. Nick Graham, who's sadly passed away now, he was on there. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the rest. Oh my god, my mind's gone blank. Anyways, Chris Rigg, he was a resident for me for a long time, and I'd never met these people before. And anyways, Andy dropped out last minute, and a lad he said, I've got a cover for you, Doof. I was like, who the fuck's Doof? He goes, honestly, you'll love him. Right, and then we'll get to that, and I thought, right, if I need people to go to my party, I need to sort of advertise. So I was getting flyers made, posting it all over town, and I thought, what I'll do is I'll go to a pub in town and I'll ask them if I can put a night on to advertise my bigger night. Do you know what I mean? I was doing that to get people along to the night. So I messaged Andy Kelly. I says, are you available to come down to this pub? And he goes, that one? I was like, yeah, I know it's a shithole, but whatever. So I went down there to this pub, and it was Barra Jack's in town, and no dance music. It's an old man's pub, but I thought it's just somewhere to play music. Played there. I think 4 people turned up, right? And I was like, a bit disheartened. And this is where Stu Wright comes into the conversation. He's an Italian DJ from the park. Really, really nice lad. He's coming back on the pod soon. Stu coming. He's messaging me saying, "Hiya mate, we've got this park reunion coming on. Can I come down to this event you're doing tonight? I'm just drop some flyers off, and then you can hand them out." It's like, yeah, sound. So come down, quickly met him and give me the flyers and whatnot, and I started handing the flyers out to the people who were there. So even the old boys who were in there, there's nobody there. And anyways, I thought, right, I need to sort of network myself to get people to come to this night. So I went to the park reunion, the first one. Italian dance all night. It was fucking class. I was underage. I was standing at the back trying to avoid the bouncers. I think I was about 15, 16 at the time. Stu was on. Phil Goodall, who was on a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Boundy, Darren Cherry, and then there was a couple of MCs in that one as well from the park. And anyways, I went there trying to talk to people. I've got this night on. Oh, we don't like Dong. We're Italian. We like Italian. It's like, right, okay. So whatever. Anyways, went and put this night on. Paid the door staff. Hired the venue. It was the Vault in Workington, which it was next to Fusion, where it was a big. People used to call it like from around the cattle market, because it was used to just look like the fucking cattle market you look down into. It's a massive venue, and I thought, I'm gonna have to have a few hundred in here to fill this. I played my set. It was terrible. I wasn't used to playing in somewhere that big. Few clanger mixes, a few alright mixes, but few clanger mixes, and then the DJs went on as well. They played really good sets, but not a single person turned up. Not one. Not a single person hit me hard in the face. And like the DJs like, oh, we're having a good time, whatever. Okay, right. Not a single, and I'm so fucking disheartened by it. It was horrible, and I thought, right, that's it. This is my career over, because everyone who knows me now is just like, you played an empty. What it was, all my friends couldn't drive out like that. None of them could get through to Workington at night and get back. So I thought maybe I've done it too far out then. So anyways, at this point, I'm like trying to get my name out there, and I can't remember what come next, but I was going to Top Gun. I was going to Sanctuaries, and I was any means possible. So were you
travelling down?
Travelling, I travelled to Blackpool. I went to Blackpool once. I went to Top Gun was in Workington. I went to a few nights in. Was
there a few of you going down, or was you just
myself?
Yeah.
Because at this point I was like, nobody's interested in it, so I just go myself. Get the train down or whatever, or get a lift if possible.
So that's ballsy, because you're such a reserved character as well.
Yeah.
Usually, if you go into somewhere like that, you'd go with a few mates just for your own comfort thing. But when you got there,
the thing was, I didn't know any different. That's a big thing that people need to remember. I didn't know what characters were going to be here. I didn't know what to expect. To me, it was just another night out in Whitehaven, and like I'd go in, didn't know anyone, and I remember going to a Sanctuary, right, and this was the very first one I went to. I'd have to look for the flyer to get it. I went to this, and
where was it?
It was it DNA, possibly the one on the front.
Was it first sank?
I think so. I think it was a DNA 2000.
So your first one
sank
listened to was 2-part-2, and your first club Sanctuary thing with DNA. Fucking hell, you've had it well good.
And I went. I remember going in, and I'd paid to go in, and like no one really acknowledged me or anything, and it wasn't a great turnout. Was it DNA? I just remember it was in Blackpool. I'd have to I'll get the flyer and I can show you. But I'm usually better with stuff like that, but I'm sure it was DNA. And anyways, I remember just going in and just not talking to anybody all night because I'm nervous because I'm a lot younger and I just thought I'm sort of
not
out my
knowing
depth here.
anyone,
But the tunes were just banging.
Yeah,
and it was the days of like it was a bit harder as well with I'm sure it was like. It was when he was getting the hard house DJs and that on, so it was like the nights where there was like Amber D and there was Andy Farley and like that. It was that era.
What year was this then? This would have
2012, I think it was. And then I got confident because I had a drink one night when I went to this Top Gun reunion. This was in 2013. And I took my mates with me who were a bit older, and they're like, we don't like this music. They're like pop punk. These are my mates who are my mates now, sort of thing. They're like, when we don't like this isn't us. I was like, just come because I want to experience being up and close and personal with like seeing John G, seeing, and we went in and it was in the Royal Oak, and for me it was like, wow, like I went in and John was on, and the first tune I heard, and it was his only other DJ I've ever heard play at this point, and it was If I told you once, I told you twice. I walked in, that was the tune it was on. I was like, how can you not like this when it kicks in? And Farrell was on and whatnot, and I just remember it was it was really, really good night. And I experienced the Royal Oak for the first time. And this is where it all starts expanding for me, because I was like, right, well, if there's raves on in here, I can come to this night. So I remember I went to Dreamland there, which was hard house and trance night. And seen Adam M. I seen, I'm sure Cali Gage done a set once, and there was like all these hard house DJs on as well. So I was getting into this, and then sort of meeting people and whatnot. And I remember going up to Farrell. Right, I might have to bleep this bit out what I'm going to say now because it's massively racist, and it's just a laugh. And you need to understand what my situation is. So we went out to the thing, and I thought I'd a drink. And the first time I'd ever talked to Farrell, I went up to him, and I said, "Will you shout, big shout, Brad Milburn and the Chink, right?" As in my missus. And he looked at me, and like that was my first interaction. I can
picture his face.
He just like fucking. He said, "What?" Right, and I just walked away. I thought, "Oh, what the fuck?" Right, yeah. So then I wrote it down. And he did the shout out. Big shout, Brad Milburn and the Chink. I couldn't believe it. I might have to bleep that word out. I'm not sure, but
I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, because if everyone knows me, everyone who doesn't know me,
it's not only that. It's not like it's a random. It's your missus.
Yeah,
and
it's my missus.
I think you'll be all fine.
She's from Hong Kong, and we have casual racism. If you heard what she called me, you'd be calling her all sorts. Yeah, but anyways, so then. That was I was confident to go up to people at this point because I had a drink, and I was talking to people. I met Candy and Keith Capstick. I met him. When I met him, he was so friendly, and I was just like, I like this.
He is like that when he's dead. Like Candy's the same. Like I don't think I've ever seen Candy without that big grin on his face. Like, you could tell him his world's ended, and he'll just have that big cheesy grin. No worries, but I seen him the other day. He come round mine the other day. He was picking something up, and as soon as I opened the door. I'll tell you a quick funny story. When he come out, he come out. Yes, Jew, that big cheesy grin, and he'd been at the gym, and he'd had his hat on, and some guy from a barber's had been dishing out flyers at the gym, and he's gone over and give Candy a flyer. He said, "I'll have a look at it and get like these little cards." So Candy looked at it. He seen it's from a barber. He went, you taking the piss? You or what? Like, because obviously he's got alopecia. Yeah. So the lad turned around. He took his hat off, and the lad's like. Oh, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm only joking, mate. It's all right, but I could just pick it. Could only happen to Candy, with his big cheesy grin and everything. But Keith's another one. Always like not up his own arse, polite, respectful. Candy's another one, like just big cheesy grin. Grundy's exactly the same. I see Grundy most days because we live a few doors apart, like so he's driving past and stuff. But I know what you mean by that. Like always dead polite and nice, and it gives you that confidence to approach other people then as well, doesn't it? Yeah. So when I was at this night, I was like, right, well, I'm going to make people know who I am. So there's presence sort of thing. I didn't say, oh, I'm a DJ, blah, 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 blah. I was just like, all right, I'm Brad, whatever, met them. I don't know if any of them can remember this. Probably just another fucking randomer. I've asked John about it because this is where I first met John. So John's waiting. He's either just been on or he must have just been on.
All right, I'm Brad, blah, blah. All right, mate, nice to meet you, all this. And I was like, mate, I remember saying to him, you're the only person who's ever also played Last Night as well, and I fucking love that tune. And then, anyways, that was that. And I've asked John in the fact, remember that? He's like, nah. He says, mate, I can't remember most things. But anyways, so that was like, right, I can sort of get into this. And then I entered the deviation comp in 2013. So at this point as well, I missed a big chunk of it out, but I've been playing like house and pumping house in various places. So I played this festival at the playground. It was really popular in my area. A guy I knew said, "Here, come down and play this," and I did and whatnot. So I was meeting people, and I was sort of like getting my name out there. And then in 2013, I entered the deviation comp. I don't think anything ever come of it. That was it.
So by this time, deviation, just for like we were saying about up and comers.
Yeah.
How old was you then? 15, 16?
No, in 2013, I would have been about 16, 17.
So you'd have had your own decks when you was
13.
Yeah, so you
13, 14, something like that.
So
Not been 12, 13. It would have been yeah.
So
right.
you'd been going for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Before even
considering entering. Yeah. I remember seeing the posts online like about entering the comp. And
the reason why I went back to that is because you see so many people who they'll buy decks today.
Yeah, and they're in the
expect a big booking by.
Yeah.
You know, they expect to be on main stage New Year's Eve type of thing. And it's like September now. It's something where you have got to put in the graft. I think a big example, recent one for me at the minute is probably Cal.
Right.
So he's been there or thereabouts for ages, and then he's obviously realised with his the vocal volumes that he does, he's changed it up to be more appealing to sort of listeners, and he's now starting to see, because I know he said to me previously, I might just fuck it off, like I don't feel like I'm really getting, and then he's sort of changed it up a little bit, and now he's on that crank it up and stuff like that, and he's
flying, isn't he?
Yeah,
good lad as well.
He's a brilliant lad. Did you see the video the other day with him at in Wales when he was learning the Welsh alphabet?
No.
Oh, go on! I don't know if he put it up or Leah put it up. So funny. You can see like he's obviously there and he's trying to learn the Welsh.
Oh, I've not seen it.
It's so funny. And he's just looking at it and you can tell it is speaking another language, but he's just not getting it. It's like doing A, B, C, do it how they say it. And he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" He's like, "No, I'm not having this. Get me back down there as soon as like."
It's not real. It's not real language at all.
I was on about it with Gemma because she moved to Wales when she was younger with her mum.
Whereabouts?
I can't pronounce it. I'm not even going to do it the disjustice of trying. She said it just rolled off the tongue. I was like, "Yeah, that's your story to tell that." But yeah, she moved and she was saying. She ended up going to school in Wales for a little bit, and the only lesson that they teach in English is English. Everything else is in Welsh, so she just sat there with them speaking Welsh and everything, and she just like, I don't know what's going on, like I don't know what you're saying. So there's like, we'll just copy off the person next to you, but I don't know what they're doing either, so there's no point in copying because I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, she was. She said it was like really confusing because when you go there,
it doesn't make sense because it literally doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Like when you go there and they don't adapt to you like how say other places would. It's just we'll either learn it or don't type of thing, and it's but yeah, it was funny. But yeah, back onto Cal. He's a good example of someone who's been there and tried and put in the groundwork.
He's been around for years as well. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise that. And
now he's getting the recognition because he's been there.
Yeah.
People see that he's not just a flash in the pan. He's actually there. He's been there. He's persistent with it.
Yeah.
He's tried numerous different things. I think the things with Pricey has obviously boosted him massively.
Yeah.
But also the volumes that he's done on himself. And I think after hearing him on this as well, which is a good thing because again you can have a
perspective of someone.
Yeah, and then you actually listen to him and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, you wouldn't have thought there was a dick before, but I mean, like, oh, they're actually really decent. Like when you know a lot more about them in depth. So again, this is another thing why if you've not been on this yet, at Brad underscore refresh. At it's time to refresh. And
Come on, look at this for a host.
So make sure you reach out to him, and if you are an up and comer, get your name out there, because people watch this. A lot of people who are important watch this in this genre. Watch it. It's a good way to get your name out there. I don't think it's any coincidence that people like Cal again was teetering on the verge of getting noticed, but not really like someone taking a real sort of chance on them. Come on here, get your name out there. People see that you've got something about you. You're not a dickhead. You're a decent person. Next thing you know, the people who are watching it, they reach out. So again, reach out to Brad.
Yeah, look at that for a host. Where were my thing? Oh yeah, I was playing Cumbria a lot, like various different places in clubs, bars, and whatnot, and it was good, but it wasn't bounce.
What you wanted?
Yeah. I was dancing on the line at bounce. I remember playing at a festival, and I played Lock and Load, Blow Your Mind, and the guy, the promoter, walked past, and it was like the dance stage. He walked past, and he was like, decided to like tame it back down. I was like, okay, fair enough, whatever. Bounce wasn't cool at that moment in time. It was all about like fucking house music and jacking and EDM and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, shout to Chris Lockey as well. He gave me quite a lot of exposure locally when I was playing. He booked me twice for a festival and then odd bits and bobs. So yeah, he's been on the pod as well. And then one of the things for me was I thought I'll enter this comp and whatnot. And then I thought, right, I'll give it another go. Putting a night on. So booked these DJs. So I had like Doof and Reedy, who've been on the podcast before. I had Chris Rigg. I had myself. I had Tom Haywood and Yucky. Tom Haywood's absolutely smashing it at the minute. He's going to come on the podcast at some point. And DJ Spear from Dirty Donkers. He was on. And anyways, I put this night on, and it was better too. It wasn't busy, but there was about, I don't know, 30 people there at this one. It was enough for some people to make people dance and whatnot. And then in the back room, we had, obviously I was going to. Didn't I say I was going to the Royal Oak and these hard house nights and stuff? Yeah. There was this event that started up called Hardcore Explosion, run by Beach U, runs Madison's, and obviously got cracking with him and stuff like that. I went to one of the Hardcore Explosions for about an hour. It was just I can't remember who was on at the time. It was in New York. It was an all nighter, and we'll get some hardcore on in the back room of the vault where I was putting the event on. So we got talking, and he turned up and played there. It was just an unorganised chaos essentially, but it was a better turnout. And I thought, right, so but it was my way of getting out. I was burning CDs and printing my name and that on them and giving them out to people, so more people knew who I was. At this point, my biggest fan base was everyone I went to school with. Still, because it was still school/college days. Everyone knew me as the DJ there, but no, I didn't know no one on the say like Workington circuit where you would go out and play. I didn't know people.
So was you Brad Riffresh?
No, this is where.
Did you have a DJ name at that point?
I was just DJ Brad Milburn, and it was awful. And I remember when I was like 7 or 8, I started doing like production then, and it was awful, absolutely awful. But it was like this really early fucking version of like. I don't even know what it was. It was just something I found on the internet, how to make music type thing. And I remember I was DJ Millie B. That was
Millie B.
Yeah, I didn't know. It was disgusting. I've still got a demo like recording as DJ Millie B in the house where it's like it was on the vinyl decks, and it's the same 20 tunes I've played a million times over, but it was that was on there. So then at this point I'm out and about always all the time. Like whenever me and my missus got something on, she's always supported me massively in what I do. Massively. She's
key that, innit?
Yeah. Well, she's like she's the admin for all this. Yeah. She doesn't. I do all the editing and recording and stuff like that. But she's the one saying, right, you need to get onto these lot, and sort this out. And she's learned to like get to know people through the scene through it. It's mad. And I was every excuse I could. I would do something music related. Like I'm surprised she didn't fuck me off, to be honest with you. Because it's obsessive. So at this point, say to her, do you fancy going for a date at cinemas to Carlisle or whatever? She's like, yeah, we'll go to cinemas. me knowing that there's record shops there, I was going to buy like records and stuff like that. Big like taking a lot of money with me and just buying records. Like at this point, everyone had fuck vinyl off, but I couldn't afford CD decks. Because I got rid of them Citronic ones that I had, and I had to get the vinyl back because they were terrible. Like you literally. It was hard to mix on them. You touched the jog wheel, it just spun. It was just a wheel that spun. There was no control over it or anything like that. The pitch didn't work or anything. So I got these vinyl decks back. So I was buying people's collections off Facebook. I remember me and my missus drove down to Ashton-under-Lyme. Never been there in my life. And I went and bought like fucking 2,000 records off someone, like 200 quid.
Yeah.
It was just he wanted rid of them, and a lot of them were damaged. A lot of them, it was all hard house, bounce, loads of all around the world stuff. I had a base collection then. At this point, it was getting addictive. I was just buying. This is the point when no one played vinyl as well. You got to remember that, like, no, it's not a brag of or out like that. It was like I was taking everyone else's waste essentially.
Yeah.
There was like I remember driving to Carlisle once
because you didn't have CDJS.
Yeah. I remember driving to Carlisle once. This guy gave his full collection away because he was like, I just need rid of them. And I remember getting and it had like Alex K beat pounds in it, and I was like, wow, I've heard this on so many recordings, and I've just got it for free. There was like loads, like I remember the Alex K EP was in one of them that I got for free, and it was the Raw Flush in it, do you know, like, and stuff like that. So I had all these tunes, and I was like, I'm the man, I'm the fucking man, like. And anyways. We sort of going forward. I put this event on, it was shit, and I thought I'm gonna have to just do something. I need to get somewhere and try get out there. I need to get out of this Cumbrian loop, because if I stay in the Cumbrian loop forever, I'm gonna end up just hammering house music, and as I enjoy it. I enjoy it, but I want to be involved with. The end goal was always Sanctuary. I wanted Sanctuary bad.
I was on about this last night as well.
The what?
I was on about that last night. Me and Josh were talking, and because I was saying, I sort of see myself branching out from this genre, because I think when I took time away, just when you were coming into it, really. So I took time away around about 2012-ish. Yeah.
That's something I never met you until about 2018, I think.
I sort of like come back, and I thought, I know lyrically I'm very good, and I don't mind blowing my own trumpet on that. When it comes actually writing lyrics down, and I'm very good. And I thought, I come back with 3 or 4 objectives or targets. BTID was one. Sanctuary was the other, and then the others were certain artists that I wanted to work with, and I've done everything that I set out to do. Obviously, I've still got the Let's Have It, which is great. And I pick up sort of little bookings here and there, but I think now it's time for me to sort of branch out a little bit and really test myself, which will mean sort of stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit. But Sanctuary was always the one for me where I was like, I've got to get on Sanctuary at some point. If I don't, as far as I was concerned, because if I grew up on it, I was like, if I've not performed for Sanctuary, I've failed. Like, I'd just class, no matter, even if I got all the fucking, I've done Bounce 7, BTID, Let's Have It. If I'd have never performed for Sanctuary, I'd have been like, I was fucking shit. Yeah. Like, just because of how much
it's I respect it.
It's what it means to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I've played a few times for him. So I'm happy with what I've done, what I've achieved. So then it's a case of, I think I'm going to look at over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, seeing what else I sound good on, and sort of look at other genres and stuff like that.
As long as you keep doing the bounce, I don't care.
Yeah, I'll always have the passion for bounce, but I think it's different because, like, when I'm on stage for bounce, I just prefer hosting.
Yeah.
I don't want to stand there emceeing and I think the type of rhymes that mine are, you have to listen to them.
Yeah.
Because
you can't do them on stage.
You can't sort of, like, Price is in the same sort of position. You can't listen to them in a club. So I think for that, if I do want to deliver my rhymes, which I do because I've got a lot of strong messages in there, I have to sort of go into a different genre where you can deliver them a little bit better. So whether that's something like a house maybe sort of genre, or maybe even something a little bit more grimy or something like that. I think something like that. But again, it's still very. I was only speaking to Josh last night about it, and I've been thinking it for a while, but I think, yeah, sort of circling back to what you were saying, it was like when I came back and thought, yeah, I'm actually gonna give it a go. Sanctuary was the right. I want that, and then when I managed to not only work for Sanctuary but also do a mix of Farrell, I was like, fuck it, like proper buzzing. So yeah, back to yours. Obviously, Sanctuary was your main goal.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out how it was I was going to get there because to me, you can't just rock up and say I'm on here, put me on here, sort of thing.
Especially not with Farrell of all people.
Yeah, exactly.